Hello YouTube, this is NC Lord. Today, I'm doing another Rant Box episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Fallout 4. Now, I'm gonna start by explaining that when the game was first announced, I was excited. I mean, I liked the style of it. I thought it was a good idea. Fallout 4 finally is coming out. We had all these games, I wasn't much of a fan of BioShock Infinite. That I thought was going to be more like a Fallout game, because they had a lot of open world stuff going on. But anyways, when Fallout 4 was finally announced, I was like, yes, finally! A new Fallout game where we get to continue from Fallout 3, a sequel to the Capital Wasteland, and, we get to see the Commonwealth and the Institute that was mentioned before. So there was a lot of expectations, a lot of cool things you thought were going to happen. But unfortunately, there were some disappointments. The hype definitely, in my opinion, did not go as I expected. So I'm going to start with the most obvious problem the game had. The removal of the skill system. Now, I think streamlining it a little was a good idea. They should have definitely done something closer to, more like Fallout 3 in New Vegas. Maybe put in an element from Skyrim, you get your skill points get increased the more you use them successfully, but only by a little bit. Not a lot. You only get a tiny couple points, but you still can increase them when you level up. Something like that would have been great. Instead, we get this haphazard perks can only be used if you play this kind of character, and there's no level cap. It feels like they don't want the game to ever end. And, there were other problems, with the actual main game and storyline. I mean, the fact that too many characters are essential. This felt like a thing from Fallout 3, and Fallout 3 had the excuse, it's Fallout 3. It was the first Fallout 3D game that was competent, And you can give them that excuse, but the companions, they had a good system for the companions. When they were active, they were essential. But in Fallout 4, they're always essential. In fact, a lot of characters were, like Elder Maxon. In New Vegas, you could kill every faction leader and say, screw you, and that you had that option. And you could decide which direction the story was going. You could be in the middle of a story and go Game of Thrones and just kill some character who's supposedly important out of nowhere. And it felt like with the story direction, no matter who you side with, the basic story was essentially the same except with the Institute. You gotta blow up the Institute either way. Honestly, it would have been cool if, at least with the Brotherhood, you got to take over the Institute and turn it into a Brotherhood, organization. You got to, or make it, make the resources go to the Commonwealth Minutemen. But, upload a virus or something that changes who can access the important system features and all that. At least one of the advanced factions, like the Brotherhood, should have been able to... They should have just deleted all the information on how to make synths. And then, if they're so hateful... I'll get to them in a bit. But, yeah. The storyline was too linear. It felt like the end result was largely the same, Anyways, moving on. There were a lot of retcons with power armor and stuff like that were really pointless and stupid, and I found, frankly, annoying, the Enclave power armor existing before the war? What the hell's with that? And the way items are implicated in the game, I rarely felt like I found anything rare, anything that was really rare. Even the Alien Blaster, which was one of my favorite weapons in the original Fallout 3 game. That weapon was awesome. You could, kill an enemy, but the ammo was hard to find. So, it was balanced in the sense that sure, you got this really powerful gun that can kill most enemies in a single hit, but it degraded quickly, which I'm glad they took out of that, the degradation, purely because of the other feature. But, you know, no items ever feel like they're that, you know, powerful, like they have that trade-off. Like, you get this super accurate weapon, you know? And yeah, it felt like a symptom of the sickness that they have legendary effects, which were purely randomized, and some of them I admit were cool, but very few weapons and items actually felt, you know, worth my time, you know? And then that brings me to the factions. I'm gonna start with the Brotherhood, because I actually kind of had some expectations with the Brotherhood of Steel. I thought they were going to be more like the Fallout 3 Brotherhood, but they degraded back into their, you know, xenophobic techno whatever. And they're such assholes, too, in this one. You know, they're not heroic at all. And I didn't mind a heroic Brotherhood of Steel. You know, that was a good idea. They could have made them a bit more morally gray, but making them these synth haters who want to wipe out synths. There actually was cut content where you could... because Paladin Dance, spoiler alert, is revealed to be a, you know, synth himself. There was actually one where you could take over as Elder and, you know, pardon Dance and all that. And I think that would have been interesting. You know, I wish there was a way to negotiate with the Brotherhood or change them so they're not such assholes. But it seems like ultimately they're so uncompromising. Like, I like the Brotherhood from Fallout 3. I really wish they were more like that. Those were cool guys. Those guys seemed like they really wanted to change the wasteland for the better. These guys are just assholes. I mean, I could argue they're a bit worse than the Brotherhood in New Vegas. Because they just want to wipe out, they want to commit genocide, pretty much, killing all the synths. I wish there was a way to change their mind and convince them, you know, there's another way, but you know, they pretty much want to wipe out the synths. I wish there was a way to broker peace between them and the Railroad without having to play as the Minutemen, because it seems like the Minutemen do not have much resources, and, you know, it felt like the Brotherhood, you know, would have been a great resource, you know, to do, and I would have really liked to see them use that Institute technology. I wanted a good ending where the technology of the Institute could be still used for the greater good. If the Institute themselves were too evil, then why not have an alternative avenue? You know, the Institute was this pretty cool, mysterious faction that we only heard about in Fallout 3, and it's like, wow, they can produce androids and shit. Which brings me to the Institute. You know, they kind of don't make as much sense, like, specifically the androids, right? In Fallout 3, the androids were implied that if you opened up their heads and stuff, you could see their technology, at least with Harkness. Like, you know, Pinkerton, he even explains that, you know, he opened up Harkness's head to make those changes to him, but now it's like there's only this small synth component, and that's the only thing. You know, and with the Institute, they were disappointing. Like, their laser weapons should have at least been a little better than the ones. I mean, they're as advanced as the Enclave and possibly Big Mountain. They're a stable faction that's been around for over 200 years. The teleportation technology is amazing, but they're kind of disappointing. They didn't have any unique power armor of their own, you know, and the way they treat synths doesn't overall make sense. You know, they feel so contradictory. I wish there was like a way that through your own choices you could have changed the Institute and made them better. You know, or made them not be an evil faction if you chose. Because you do become their leader. You become their director. There should have been options to, you know, make them actually have the Commonwealth's interest. They could have been a morally gray faction, where they're seen as a boogeyman, but maybe they were misunderstood, and stuff like that. And it's kind of a shame you have to kill Kellogg, and there was no alternative option to him. Overall, in my opinion, Fallout 4 was a disappointment. Granted, it wasn't as big of a letdown for me as BioShock Infinite, but I really feel like they could have done so much more with what they were given, you know? And the DLC, you know, it was pretty underwhelming. I mean, there was some good DLC in Fallout 3, and even New Vegas, to an extent, you know? Like, it had a very interesting, consistent storyline. I don't know what the problem with Fallout 4 is. The DLC, I think I got a good deal when I first bought the Season Pass, purely because I bought it early on. But it wasn't worth it overall, you know? The experience was misleading. I really wanted something more of a progression with what New Vegas had developed. You know, add more stuff to that. And, you know, the whole game overall just disappointed me. Anyways, everyone, this is NC Lord, and I appreciate you watching my video. And like, comment, and subscribe. And this has been another episode of Rant Box.